opportunity for them to assign something from that. They don't have to because they are the teacher of record for that student. They can assign it.
How you doing, Dr. Lamb?
I'm excited to be here. You just don't know. My power came back on literally 5 minutes ago.
Wow.
I've been without power. I'm in Lake Lure tonight. I gone back to my condo so my wife could get out of the house. And we had a microburst a little before 4 o'clock, knocked out everything, power, internet, scrambled. I couldn't get Gardner Webb, so I've just finally got everybody's presentations loaded. I got my phone charged up. I was going to try to sit here in the dark and run my computer off my backup computer going as well. Hoping I had enough battery life to get us through tonight, but hopefully the power will stay on. But I'm prepared if it goes out, so we're good to go. I'm excited to be here.
Me too.
Well, I see everybody's coming along. I appreciate all of y'all joining us last night. Good session last night, I thought. And so that's kind of how I wanted to start out tonight. I think, yeah, I'm recording. Dr. Stedman's with us. He and I conversed after last night. Questions you have for me about interviewing from last night? I hope everything was fairly clear. I know things are a little scrambled right now because of being online, but I actually got an email today from Charlotte Meck wanting to do some partnering with us. Thank you, Juliet. Wanting to partner with us, and I know why. You folks are very good at what you do, number one, but number two, you have the requisite digital and virtual skills that you need, and so I'm not egotistical enough to think that they chose us because of me, because of you, and because of what you've learned in this program, not only your content, but your process as well. So that bodes well for us. So I'm excited to see them wanting to partner with us again. It's been a while since we partnered with them. That's good news. So hopefully, I just got a word a few minutes ago that Sean Circus, who just finished with us, and Dr. Stedman, didn't he finish this spring with us, Sean? He was ours.
Sean who?
Circus, C-Z-E-R-C-I-S. He's in Gaston.
No, not. He may have been in the.
I had him in 603.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he was in a different section of your 60 than your 601.
He was.
But, I believe he finished with us this spring. He just got a job, so that's good news. And so our folks are doing really well. So I hope all of you will, if you're looking for a job, that you'll go ahead and start looking, because it's an extraordinary time. And but I think that you will get the opportunity sooner rather than later now because of your skill sets. And I said that.
With the 605 students, I had them as an assignment. They had to do a reflection on last night's town hall.
Yeah, one of them sent it to me.
I've looked at them. I have gotten excellent reviews about last night.
Well, that's good.
So
I want it to be useful. I don't want to waste people's time.
Excellent reviews last night.
Well, in that vein, I want to first thank you all for choosing Gardner Webb. And I want to thank you for choosing the MELS program. We've had a great time this summer. Dr. Stedman and I talk about it after every class, what a great group you all have been. Not to shine you on, but you know, we don't always get great groups. I hope that we've expressed that we are appreciative of how hard you've worked, the quality of your work, the quantity. A lot of you have accelerated this summer. It's been an extraordinary time. Some of you have been like me, having to be shut-ins, but your work has not suffered. It's been great. Some of you are already getting jobs, and we're so pleased with that. I see Eric tonight. I mean, we that's what we do this for. is for you to get jobs and make a difference in the lives of the teachers and the children that you work with. That's the payback for us, and I can't tell you enough how enjoyable this summer session has been. It's been the best that I've ever had in terms of summer. I don't think anybody's behind at all, and never been behind in our classes, and I'm so pleased. You know, Dr. Stebbin, we haven't had to refer people and work with them and beg and plead and do any of that. It's been really been easy for us this summer, and we're appreciative of that. So I won't spend too much more time. I did have a request from Carrie to go first, and so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and pull that up, and we'll kind of go randomly after that if I can find Carrie's presentation. Let me get some of this stuff off my screen.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. They just got this board meeting going now.
Let me move this out of the way. All right, so this is case study 4. It's going to be Carrie and Amy and Melissa and Anthony. And so this is the case study where you were supposed to put the whole course together. We could see, you know, this principal absence of what happens if you don't do walkthroughs, if you don't know the curriculum, if you don't know federal EC law. We can see what happens when you're not a servant leader. We can see what happens when you don't know the schedule. We can see what happens when you don't involve parents and do parent nights and parent meetings. All of those things, everything that we've talked about through the OMA, all the law, policy, all of the skip involving your parents and your community, short-term, long-term, everything is kind of wrapped up in this case. This is my favorite in terms of we hit everything, funding, equity, everything comes home to roost in this case. And so this is kind of putting it all together. You know, how have you assimilated all these disparate pieces that we've gone over this summer? How have you put it together? And so I'm going to let Carrie's group kick us off. Go right ahead.
All right, so we're going to start off with the summary. We have this case focused on the issues in inclusive education, the role of parents and teacher play, and how students with special needs are best supported inside the classroom. Raise the challenge of how to meet the needs of all children. This can sometimes result in no children's needs are met. A group of parents at an elementary school in a small rural village requested to meet with the school's principal to discuss concerns that one of the school's teachers was disregarding the needs of their children by being overly concerned about the special needs students. When the principal of the school communicated these concerns to the teachers in question, the teachers expressed strong disagreement with both diagnosis of the problem and proposed modifications in classroom practices. Let's go to the next one. So just to piggyback off inclusion versus mainstream, what we did was we have inclusion. The students, regardless of ability, are participating members of a general education class. And we have for mainstream, the students must meet a set of criteria to participate in a general education classroom. If you go down to the second one, for inclusion, the curriculum is adapted and modified to meet the students' needs. For mainstream, the students must demonstrate ability to work with existing curriculum. For inclusion, the general education teacher oversees the student's education. And for mainstream, the special education teacher oversees the student's education. For question 1 for the next one. We have Maria.
I'm right here. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. For question 1, how might the principal approach this and future meetings with her peers? Is it necessary to choose one approach over the others? Overall, we felt that this should have been a difference that should not have existed. Additional and continual professional development will help all teachers, new and old, stay informed on the pedagogy of inclusion and mainstreaming. There should be a careful balance where all students are getting their needs met. And for question 2, what is the path that Eugenia should take We said with the support of an educational specialist, Eugenia should plan for new and continual professional development to help support teachers in the best teaching practices. Help develop a PLC of the inclusion teachers and support personnel to help lend to teacher support and communication. And finally, add specialized support to the teacher's classroom as much as possible.
Hey, and so then for question 3, is one point of view more correct than the other, and why? We said that while it is true that there are special resources devoted to EC students, it is required by law to educate students in the least restrictive environment possible. And LRE is part of the Individuals with Disabilities Act, or the IDEA. And that says that children who receive should learn in the least restrictive environment, and this means they should spend as much time as possible with peers who do not receive special education. And the IDEA also says 2 things about LRE that are important to understand when working with the IEP team, and that is that your child should be with kids in general education to the maximum extent that is appropriate. In special classes, separate schools, or removal from the general education class should only happen when your child's learning or thinking difference or a disability under the IDEA is so severe that supplementary aids and services can't provide your child with an appropriate education. And then what kind of collaboration from the children's families might the principal and the teachers propose in order to improve the inclusive education program, encourage an appreciation for diversity, and stimulate learning for all of the students at the school? We suggested things such as family nights, parent involvement, volunteering in the classroom, and that the goal is to allow the parents to see how the students collaborate together and see the benefit for both parties.
For question 5, as an expert in the area of learning and evaluation, what might Ishmael, the technical coordinator, do to integrate and create some harmony out of the differences in opinion among the teachers? We felt like this should have been an issue that maybe they could have foreseen coming. There should have really never been a disagreement here. So there definitely needs to be some professional development offered. And it needs to be continual so that they can make sure that their new teachers receive the professional development, and that everyone kind of, stays up on the latest research and the latest guidelines, because those laws do change sometimes. Lay out standards of operation, share lesson plans, be open to new ideas, and definitely develop and support PLCs. PLCs would have a great impact here.
Excellent. So you just hit those 2 notes as well. The AppSell, where you develop your PLCs, and your AppTel, where you developed a school-wide professional growth plan. That's the 2 notes that this one hits. Very good.
Thank you. What actions might Sylvia take with the families of the children in question in order to learn and share the achievements and experiences they have observed among the children? Start a newsletter, have a student of the month, bulletin board, some recognition type things going on, progress reports, class parent, that would help boost the involvement, after school homework clubs, community outreach materials, and a weekly folder.
Very good. So hopefully we can all see how this case touches all of the parts that we have learned so far in terms of our content. Now, as I have told you, as we move into 605, some of you 730 next semester, as we move into 605, we're going to start working on our leadership ability. So this is kind of concludes the basic fundamentals of how you operate a school. This case should pull all that together and focus you on that, from PLCs to walkthroughs to professional growth plan to how you set up and run a school in terms of master schedule, all your laws and regulations, federal law, state law, local board policy, EVOS, best practices, all the way into a marketing plan, parent nights. It's all a process and that you have to work through. And once you have all of these first 4 evidences together, you can see now the operational part of how you run a school. Next semester, or some of you have already gone into the CAP, and that's about how to, as a leader, adjust the culture of your school. And then the 6th evidence, you'll put it all together in a cohesive, comprehensive school improvement plan. But this kind of concludes the part of how do you run a school? What do you do? What's the basics of running a school? Very good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
really appreciate you working with us.
Thank you. All right, so let me move this out of the way. I know where I want to go next. Let's see. All right. Tracy, Chitra, Eric, and Teresa.
Hello there, everybody.
Hey, Eric.
So I think we agreed as a team that although the subject of this case study was this integration model, it was really used as a vehicle to show us something about this principal's leadership or lack of leadership.
Yay!
So we see a parent who's brought a complaint to the principal. They're concerned that the program results in disproportionate amount of time being spent on some children, and the parents are objecting to that, and how a particular teacher is handling instruction versus other teachers. So if you go to the next slide. When the principal receives this complaint, one good thing we can say about this principal that we determined was she did a fine job of listening to the parents' concern, and then seeking information about it without jumping to hasty conclusions, either throwing the teacher under the bus or, she took the parents' complaint seriously and then went about collecting information. But the failure on the principal's part was that she didn't communicate to parents about the inclusion initiative on the front end. So in the absence of that, knowledge and information about the program and its potential benefits for all of the learners, not just the special learners, the parents came to their own conclusions, and a problem was allowed to fester, resulting in an unpleasant scenario for the principal to have to address.
If you don't set the narrative, somebody else will.
Exactly. So looking forward, what we saw was that, there we go. So what we saw was the principal held strong, positive opinions of a inclusion program and its potential benefits for all the students. She knew the necessary information, but the narrative also, the case study also shows us that the principal was unaware that not only were there groups of parents, but also factions of her teachers who were holding differing and unhealthy views on the matter. So going forward, we would recommend that she'd consider sharing her thoughts about the benefits of inclusion along with the supporting research to her entire school community. And again, using this as a learning scenario, it's very possible that other areas of concern warrant greater communication as well across the faculty and her larger school community. So she should consider facilitating more robust communication. You can go on ahead. So the school to us seemed plagued by a lack of communication and instructional leadership, and that resulted in polarizing views and uninformed stakeholders. So when looking at Sylvia's position, for example, we see an instructional model completely led by the classroom teacher. However well-intentioned, there was no evidence, at least from this narrative, that she was working in collaboration with the specialists they were paying for on the staff. So there's wasted staff there and an overburdened teacher. When looking at Sergio's position, we see a teacher with little patience for understanding of the potential benefits of the inclusion model. Thus, he's advocating for the polar opposite, a model in which only the specialists are working with the special needs students.
And this brings in a really good point too about how that's really hurting the culture of the school as a whole at this point. And you're not only just hurting your teachers, but you're really hurting the kids, which is why everyone's here is for the kids. And having that point of view, and that was kind of where, in my opinion, the whole case that he went to was, where's the culture in that school building and what is it doing?
You're exactly right. If you don't run a school correctly, your culture goes down the drain. I can't tell you that running the school correctly will give you the right culture, but I can tell you if you don't, it'll give you the wrong culture. To Tracy's point, this is the next thing that's coming up in your, most of you already know, the CAP's coming up is you can have the best organization in the world, but if your culture is not there, you will not be successful. But you got to have the first 4 pieces in place to get to, and then you've got the opportunity to establish the culture in your school that you want. But if you're missing any of these first 4 pieces, it's not going to happen for you. It's exactly right. Great point, Tracy.
Go for it, Eric.
All righty. So each of the individuals we see depicted in the case study did in fact present valid concerns. You know, we see Sylvia overburdened because she's doing everything herself. What was the other guy's name? Sergio, whatever his name was. He had concerns, and they were valid. But due to a lack of communication, and the parents did as well, but due to a lack of communication and leadership, each party was unable to see the way they could work cooperatively to best serve the students and, in fact, themselves. And we agreed it was the principal's responsibility to facilitate that communication. So to that end, we suggested that she might bring all the families together to present the benefits of an ideal inclusion program for all learners. Like you said, in the absence of information, they'll make up their own information.
That's correct.
Immediately engage the teachers in research-based professional development so that the teachers and the specialists can work together properly to ensure that all the students are well served and that there's no teacher overburdened. And finally, encourage the teachers and the specialists to regularly engage with the parents, celebrating classroom and student achievements and highlighting the successes related to the inclusion program. In the end, again, we saw this case study as a vehicle to really talk about principal leadership, and that this principal should use this situation as a broader learning opportunity. If this level of discord or problem was growing under her nose about this one issue, what other areas of concern might be going on that she is unaware of? And if there are other areas suffering due to lack of communication and leadership and collaboration and professional development, then she should engage in an honest school-wide assessment so that programs could be put together to address those problems before she finds out about them by parent complaint.
How often do you think this principal's doing walkthroughs?
Not very often. Which really hits into that last ethical paradigm of our profession.
That's
She's
correct.
not holding to that accountability of student academic and social success within her classrooms, in her entire school building.
That's a home run right there, folks. There's no ethic of profession here. You can't just show up and get a check and sit in your office. That's the ethic of your profession. You're supposed to be out working and leading this organization. You don't teach a soul. They don't pay you to teach kids in the science or math class. They pay you to lead the organization. The ethic of profession, which is completely absent in this case, as y'all have pointed out. And again, back to Tracy's point, the culture in this place has got to be terrible. Could you imagine seeing the teacher working condition survey from a place like this? Oh my Lord.
I'm all right.
It would be demoralizing to be a staff member at this place. It'd be awful. And you know they pass that right on to kids. And so, excellent point. Excellent presentation again. All right. All right. Do we have Kayla or Kenny?
I'm here.
Or Stephanie?
I'm here. Hey there.
Hey.
Hope you're doing good. So pretty much everyone has already done a lot of the case overview and kind of went over everything in that regard. So we're going to kind of go, if you don't mind, skipping to slide 4, making sure we're at the right spot. And so we kind of went, not only did we answer the questions, but we kind of went through and we kind of matched everything up to the evidences. And so we were going to kind of go through and talk about some of the things based on what we're seeing from the specific evidences. So if you look at this slide here, this is talking about the APSEL and the OMA. So we already see that Principal Eugenia is asleep at the wheel. She has really no idea what's happening in her classrooms. One thing we talked about is that the meeting with Sylvia was good and being able to go and sit down and have a conversation with her. But it's big that they revisit and ensure that all teachers are knowledgeable about the laws and policies that govern special education. Special education has so many laws and so many things that if you don't pay attention, not only is a school liable, but sometimes you can be held personally liable.
That's correct.
And it will ruin your career. Definitely revisit teacher expectations and student expectations and make sure that everything that's happening in the classroom is what you're expecting to happen when you walk in the door every day, and that the parents know that as well. We had it down at the bottom, satisfying the needs of one group of students should not be to the detriment of the other students. While students can work in small groups or with the shoulder partner to complete tasks, students who finish their work early should be challenged to go above and beyond with enrichment and not having to stop and teach others. Although there is a little bit of merit in there, like, I mean, you will be able to know if a kid knows something by being able to teach it, but that's not the sole thing we're trying to learn there. We're trying to make sure that that kid can continue to rise, but they don't need to be teaching other people. That's not how that works. Your job is the teacher.
I love your point here as an old biology teacher every once in a while. Learning does not happen by osmosis. It does not go from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane just because you want it to. If that was the case, we could sleep with books under our pillow and be as smart as we wanted to be. Excellent point.
If you want to skip to the next one, oh yeah, you've already done it. Perfect. So this one, I think the next two talk about skip and cap. So after talking with Sylvia and Professor Ortiz, we see that that Principal Eugenia and Professor Ortiz and the third grade teachers they need to go and they need to meet with those third grade parents and assure and those parents that the school is doing everything in their power to meet the needs of their children. Because obviously there is a disconnect between what's happening in the schoolhouse and obviously what the kids are putting on paper, because it seems like there's an obvious disconnect there. We need to figure out some enrichment activities that they can, that not only we can do in the classroom, but maybe they might be able to provide at home to continue to maybe catch those kids up and put them at a level where the parents feel good. Parents, if parents have a concern, they should be able to reach out and communicate directly to that teacher. Although it is really good that they can get in contact with the principal, sometimes taking that to a teacher so the teacher doesn't feel blindsided might actually help. I can see why maybe in that situation that teacher may have felt the kind of way about it. But I do appreciate the way the principal did handle it by listening intensively and then going to that teacher. But maybe if there's a line of communication directly to that teacher, we could probably do some culture building there. And then also update Sylvia's parents on the progress after meeting. This could be a bi-weekly or monthly thing. The leadership team should also invite parents from all other grade levels to give them the same assurance they gave the third grade parents. Students getting what they need as far as all the special education and everything. So just like Principal Eugenia sat down with the third grade teachers and all of the teachers thereafter, this needs to happen with the parents for sure. Because like we said, that special education and those laws that go with it will really ruin you if you're not paying attention to what's supposed to happen. And at the end, when you are supposed to put something down on that paper that you signed for, and it's not being administered to that kid properly, that can really be a problem.
Kenny, I'm going to jump in for a second. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so one point that I've noticed that my group picked up on that I don't think we've mentioned yet is the involvement of the EC or the special education teacher. And that seems to be nowhere in any of this. That teacher, we all know, is assigned this specific student, this specific plan, these specific accommodations. And it seemed that everybody that they talked to in that school had a different idea about what inclusive education looks like. There was no consistency across the board. Nobody, in the end, everybody had different viewpoints about what to happen, when really the expert on that child and that plan and their accommodation should have been that special education teacher. And that was a key point that was totally missing across the board.
I think that goes back and speaks to the notion of an absence of principal leadership, in that seems like everybody in this building just does whatever they want to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so my question is, if something that's as tight as federal EC law in terms of, you know, as laid out and as specific as it is, what do you think's happening in other programs where it isn't that specific? Do you think rarely does one thing, you know, you have a school where one thing is really bad and everything else is really good? But you're exactly right. I mean, this place is got to be a disaster from top to bottom. Where's the EC teacher? That's what we're paying her or him for. They're no. It appears that everybody just shows up and do what they want to do. That's a lack of leadership.
I think that was very telling at the end when Ishmael went to talk to all the other teachers, and they basically all have different accounts of what they thought should be happening, but nobody had the same idea. And then one teacher tried to defer the conversation with a totally different question. So that's a hot mess.
Yeah, it is. It's a hot mess here. This is what happens when you have somebody who's a manager in the principal's office rather than a leader. Everybody just does whatever they want to do. Nobody follows through on anything. Principal doesn't know what's going on in the classroom. There's no cohesive plan for staff development, for professional development. There's obviously no PLCs at work here. The schedule's a mess. You know, there's no parent involvement. They've already made up their mind. They've already, you know, probably got an acronym for their group, and they're setting their own agenda, and they've done their own narrative. I mean, this is like, you know, how could you be this incompetent? But people are. People who aren't willing to have those critical conversations and don't have a clear vision of what it takes to run a school. This is what happens. Everybody just does whatever they want to do. That's the thing that strikes me. The overarching in this case is lack of leadership, because everybody does whatever they want to do. Nobody does the right thing. And if the right thing is done, it's just by accident. It's just incidental rather than intentional. You must be intentional in running and leading a school. You must be intentional. You must have a sense of urgency that we got to get this. This is important. And that we got to do it the right way every day. Not just every now and then. We've got to be consistently good every day. And that comes from the top. I'd like to say that people will do the right thing, but I don't know that they will, but I know they won't if they don't know what the right thing is. They'll do whatever is most expedient for them. I'm going to skip down because I really love this one.
Kayla, you doing there, or am I stepping out, or am I going? I'm going to keep going.
Go ahead, Kenny.
Okay, cool. So the further thoughts down at the bottom, it says the school superintendent needs to put Principal Eugenia on an action plan, or she should be asked or forced to resign or demoted. Because obviously we see that she just does not have a good handle on what's happening, and it's best that we probably look at someone else for that position. The school superintendent should, or the district superintendent should review laws regarding learning environments and individualized education plans for Eugenia. Just because she believes in total and full inclusion does not mean it is the least restrictive environment for each student. Also ensure she is following the laws for inclusion classes. Obviously, we see that having total inclusion, and that sounds really, really nice. But if you aren't adhering to the laws and not really looking at the follow through and how that's going to happen, we obviously see that this is going to be quite a big issue. Eugenia or the new principal should meet with staff and then redesign the master schedule to ensure compliance. Teachers may riot at the mere suggestion of implementing a new schedule well into the new school year, but this might be the best opportunity. This way we'll be able to peel back the layers and see, okay, how do we create these least restrictive environments now that we know that these aren't the correct ones? And
That's
be able to build a schedule where everybody's really.
If you're not following federal law, then you have that's a whole nother, it's better to go ahead and redo that schedule and get it taken care of as soon as possible and addressing the situation instead of waiting a year and the federal government was like, we've given you all this money.
Give it back.
Exactly.
Give it back.
And they will ask for it back.
Oh, they will make you revert funds in a heartbeat. They'll make you give it back. Perfect. This is what we did in task 3 of the OMA for this very reason. If it's not going well, you got to fix it. If it's a federal program, you better fix it because they're going to ask you for that money back. You better learn how to go in and set your priorities. Federal law, federal programs first, then state law, then local board policy, then EVOS, then teacher input. But if it's not right, you got to be able to go and assess and fix it on the fly. I had to do that one time. In my first 2 months on the job in a school, I had to go in and trash the schedule and go to a new one on October 1st because we were not meeting federal or state guidelines in that middle school. And I had to come in and do a complete reschedule of the school, the master schedule, because they were having to send money back. That's exactly right. This happens. I've done it. I'm the bad example here. I had to walk in and do this. Now, you will not be a popular person, but it must be done. So perfect. On a sad note, a principal got removed in Charlotte, Mecklenburg in the last 5 days. There's a time when parents get, when they get so out of control that there's no other option except that the principal has to go. He was reassigned. It was a high school in Charlotte. Some of you might know, but they couldn't get off the news cycle. They couldn't satisfy the parents. The parent group got a name. They got mobilized. They had their own narrative. And I'm sure he wasn't guilty of all the things that they accused him of or the school of, and him being in charge of the school. I'm sure that some of that was probably misconstrued or might have been exaggerated. It always is. But they set the narrative, and the district eventually had no choice. That's what happens when parents set the narrative. When you're not in charge, and the teachers pretty much were in that school were doing what they wanted to do or not do, and it came back to roost on him because the parents wouldn't let it go. They got organized. So that's what happens. But Stephanie's exactly right. They'll make you give the money back on federal programs. State will make you send it back too if you're out of compliance in your master schedule. Now remember, I know we've talked about this, but I want to remind you, the state checks your master schedule every month. Every month. The SAR, School Activity Report, is filed electronically every month before they send you that month's money. Remember, they divide it in 10 equal payments. They send it at the end of the school month. They check your SAR. The state does. That's your master schedule. They check it every month. The feds, they audit you every 6 months to make sure, especially these special programs. Some districts hire people who are known as compliance technicians for EC, and that's all they do is check compliance to make sure your master schedule is in compliance. That's all they do. So the heart of your school is that master schedule. And I told you when we first started this course 10 weeks ago, whoever does the master schedule, whoever makes it up runs the school, period. Just that simple. Great presentation. I love your further thoughts here. You've hit the nail on the head here.
Dr. Lamb, may I say one thing about—
Go right ahead, Dr. Stebbins. You jump right in.
The principal that was removed and relocated in Charlotte, just remember that sometimes, and Dr. Lamb and I have had to do this, sometimes what may appear to you as a principal may come across punitive, but it's in your best interest.
Exactly.
And those are things that you've got to understand and consider, that it's not always punitive when these things happen. It's in your best interest.
Yeah. He just couldn't get off the news cycle. And he lost his effectiveness, and you know, it wasn't so much punitive, but sometimes that's the only solution there is. But the district, and like the doctor said, he and I have had to make those decisions for, you know, and you hate to do it, but sometimes you realize there's no other option. Nothing is going to work short of doing that. You know, that we have to protect students, and we have to protect the district, and we have to do those things. All right. We've got Ingrid, Kareem, and Kishlin. Do we have anybody from that group here tonight?
I'm here.
Great. I see Kareem is here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you barely.
Oh, okay.
Now I can.
All right, Kishlin is about to start it off.
Okay, and let's see. Kareem, did you share?
I've got it on the screen. I've got it from your,
Okay.
I've got it from the one that's in Google Docs. I've got it on the
Okay.
screen.
Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and jump into the questions. Because everyone gave such a great overview.
Yeah.
And so question 1, how might the principal approach this in future meetings with our teachers? We were basically in line with what everyone else was saying. She should have ensured that the teachers, students, and parents were aware of the guidelines for the inclusion program. We also noted that she would need to observe teachers to actually ensure that the guidelines are being carried out in an effective manner. After receiving a complaint on Sylvia, what she should have done was actually herself observed her to find out what was going on, and held a meeting with Sylvia to then discuss what she saw. And we have like points of law tucked into each presentation going underneath each of our points.
Excellent.
She was wrong to ask Ishmael to observe other teachers. That's her job. As the administrator, she's responsible for the building. She's responsible for ensuring that teachers are following the curriculum and instruction that is supposed to be set forth with the vision of the school and whatnot. So she was wrong for doing that.
That's exactly right. Excellent reference there. Principal's job is to evaluate certified employees and develop action plans. That is correct.
Go to the next slide. Is it necessary to choose one approach over the other? We looked at some of the things that Eugenia did, and again, she should absolutely make sure that the inclusion program is discussed and it's clear to everyone there at the school. And had this been done, a lot of the trouble that came about would have been avoided. Let's see. And Eugenia should also consult with her EC experts at the school and rely upon inclusion services offered to the student. And so again, like we said, we just have points of law tucked into that to back that up. That just, you know, it's lawful and it's what she should be doing. She should be following the law, and it's just not happening at this school. We can go to the next slide. What path should she take? The only path that she can do is to, you know, get into compliance. That's just the only thing that she can do. And there are a number of actions that she needs to take to see this happen. But bottom line is that she has to make sure that all of the students are receiving an equitable education, because that's her law. That's her job.
Mm-hmm.
We can go to the next slide. And this question 4, it's more of what we just said, that is one point of view more important than the other, and why? For us, the main point of view that counts is what's happening for the students. That's the only kind of viewpoint that really counts. Is what's happening lawful, and is it benefiting the students? And at this school, it just wasn't happening. And we can go down to question 5. What kind of collaboration could she have with the families? She definitely can't discuss with the complaining parents any type of conditions or anything going on with other children. She can't discuss or mix any of that type of business up. She could have had an open house where teachers would have had a chance to present inclusion points about the curriculum. She could have a diversity day, and she could also include some of these details in a handbook for students and parents to observe. For Ishmael, he was greatly respected in the school. She could actually consider having him in a teacher leadership role, since all the teachers regarded him and trusted him. She could do that. She could also use Sergio. He had really great test scores. But before any of that could happen, they're going to have professional development on the inclusion piece to make sure everyone is in line, because you can't have a teacher put into a leadership role if they don't know what the points of leadership, what they should be, and what they should be telling other teachers.
Yeah, according to, back to the Aptell and Whitaker, what's the first step for becoming a school-wide teacher leader? Teach other teachers. And so this would be an opportunity to employ that as well. That's a great point.
And again, for Sylvia, she definitely is going to have to address the parents and to ensure and to help them understand what inclusion is about, and that education is not being taken away from other children to be given to others in the classroom. With the inclusion model, is just something that has to be explained, and it's not about one group of kids getting something more than another group. The group as a whole, they're going to learn, and they're going to be on task. But for this school, it just wasn't happening. But if they ever got everything together, it would be a clearer picture for the parents to see what inclusion is, and they'd be able to see that educational opportunities are not just unequal in the classroom. They're supposed to be on an even playing field.
Okay, so when it comes to the 4 ethical paradigms, justice, you had the parents and the teachers, everyone was expressing unfairness and equitable situations occurring. So regardless of what happened, Eugenia could have brought everyone together, but she had to make sure that she was acting in a lawful manner. You had some teachers who was pretty much complaining, feeling like all the accommodations and stuff should come from the special ed teachers. The regular classroom teachers was complaining that. However, that's a part of the job of the regular classroom teacher to provide those accommodations to these students. When it comes to care, you had the relationships between the teachers, the principal, and the parents can be addressed by listening to all concerns, and then work to set clear expectations on curriculum and instructions. Collaboration between all stakeholders can build connections for shared decision making. So then again, Eugenia, it was her job to bring everyone together, for her to bring the voices of the parents or the community or whatever, match those with the teachers, and make sure everyone is on the same accord. Critique. Human rights must be lawfully and ethically protected. In this case, the rights of the students to receive an equitable education must be protected. Acts of discrimination and unethical behavior against students cannot be tolerated, no matter if these acts were committed purposely or ignorantly. Eugenia must equip her teachers and parents with the facts about inclusion to dispel misconceptions. Her EC specialist can help her with this task in creating an equitable learning environment. And profession, principals are responsible for the care and well-being of students. As principal, Eugenia has a commitment to protect the best interests of her students. She will need to reflect upon her practices and evaluate what corrective actions need to take place. And she also needs to model the behaviors and expectations for her teachers to create transparency and an environment of trust. So, and here's a few administrative, I'm sorry, can you go to the last slide? Okay, and the administrative tips. Become familiar with educational law, district policies and procedures, books by Charles Russell and Alan Osborne, Special Education and the Law, Section 504, ADA, Essential Concepts in School-Based Cases. So here's just a couple of tips for her. Become familiar with major viewpoints on both sides of inclusion. Prepare teachers, students, and parents on the facts and expectations of curriculum and instruction, and rely upon experts such as EC teachers, specialists, and district EC personnel whenever you have issues.
Excellent. Excellent job of documenting law, policy, best practices, websites, your ethical concerns. Excellent job doing that. One of the things that I want to highlight that was brought out in this one, when you get your job as an AP, if your background is instructional specialist, you're probably already certified by your district to do teacher evaluations. If you are not, that's one of those things you're going to need to get trained on very quickly. In the meantime, you can help your administrative team by doing walkthroughs. So one of the bigger mistakes that you can make as a beginning administrator is wait or be delayed in getting into classrooms because you aren't yet certified by your district to do formal observations. But you can do walkthroughs. You need to be in those rooms. Excellent job.
Please don't do hours.
Let's see.
No.
Dr. Lamb, they may want to go ahead, if they have not had that training, go ahead and inquire if any opportunities come available, because that makes you more marketable when you interview for.
Absolutely, it does.
But I would ask that question if I don't have that training.
Exactly. Absolutely. All right, we've got case study 4, inclusive education. Paulette, Juliet, Katie, Erica, and Andrea.
Hello, this is Paulette. Everybody has really basically said everything that we have in this slide, but we're just going to touch bases. Dr. Lamb, if you can go to slide 10. We're talking about the 4 paradigms also, as Kareem just did a minute ago, and we just had we said the same thing, but just said it differently. Our first one was justice, and it says justice would require that the school administration and teachers practice fairness and equity for all students. Care requires that relationships are built between various departments in the school and families, as well as collaboration and decision-making to provide equitable access to all students. This should take place early in the school year. And then with critique, we said critique would demand that the principal adhere to the laws and practice effective communication with within her school and establish expectations. And then it's in this profession's responsibility of the principal to ensure that all students are receiving a fair and equitable education. She should know that what is being taught and how is it being taught in her classroom. Ignorance is not a defense.
Absolutely.
I actually thought that sometimes when teachers move up into administration at the same school where there were teachers, you're not always respected as an administrator, and sometimes you have these little friendships and you don't really know how to be an effective leader with people who were once your cohorts in a, like you were a teacher and they were right beside you. So sometimes people have a hard time transitioning at their same school from a teacher to an administrator.
That is correct. That is absolutely, that's a great point.
But
it's hard to have those critical conversations. People don't take you
Absolutely.
seriously if you've been their peer.
Right, absolutely. But we can go over the questions, but it's basically the same thing that everyone.
I think that's great. I read this one. I got this one. This great job, and thank you for pointing it out. One of the things that I want to point out from this one, building those relationships goes back to that skip marketing plan. Builds that communication, builds those relationships. Short term, find out ways to communicate, and long term, those family nights. Care, that ethic of care, that shows people that you care about their children and about them as well. It's not about, people will remember how you make them feel, parents and students. And that's the ethic of care. And that's really the heart of what the skip tries to get you to understand is once you're communicating, once you've got them hooked, now we can do great things with them. We can show them how much we care for them and how much them and their children matter to us. And so that ethic of care, that's really at the heart of the skip. Excellent job.
Dr. Lamb, I have one question. Just speaking about federal funding here in South Carolina, I'm not sure if you've heard, but our governor.
I've heard.
Oh, is that legal?
It is, because it's CARES money. You know that the deal was struck on that CARES money that there would not be any, there wouldn't be any strings, or there would not be any guidelines or stipulations, or there would be no accountability with that money, that it would be pork barrel.
Wow.
It is not coming out of the education budget. Let me be clear. That money is not, although it's coming from the federal government, it's not coming out of the federal education budget, which is earmarked. It would be completely illegal to do that with that money.
Okay.
But this is CARES money, like the last round was TARP during the Obama administration when he bailed us out. That was TARP money. This is CARES money. It is pork barrel. There was, one group in government, federal government, argued that there ought to be stipulations, requirements, that there ought to be accountability, but that was not passed by the Senate. And so what is happening, what Paulette's referring to is, I believe $46 million is in CARES money is coming to South Carolina, and the governor's giving $38 million of it to private schools, so that people can pay private school tuition.
Oh, geez, Lord.
And because it is pork barrel federal money, that is, now I believe there will be a Supreme Court case on this. I believe that eventually that they will lose that in the Supreme Court, because it violates equal protection under the law, 14th Amendment. But it may take 10 years for it to get there, and the money will be long gone, and so will the politicians by then. But I do believe it does violate the 14th Amendment. But there will be a lawsuit over it, but the money will be spent long before then.
Well, there is already a lawsuit. Today, South Carolina judge temporarily blocked his decision to do that.
Yeah, that's it'll eventually have to get to the Supreme Court, I suspect.
So even if it's blocked, he still could actually spend that money, even though his ruling has been blocked.
Yeah, because it is pork barrel, I think in this case, I believe they will distribute the money, even though there's an injunction. I believe they'll figure out a way. They'll get somebody else to lift that, and as soon as it gets lifted, they'll spend it or give it out quickly before the next level of appellate gets to it. I believe they'll figure out a way to get it spent, but they'll eventually lose this case. But they'll have it, the money, they'll have the money spent before then, is what I'm afraid will happen.
Okay, thank you.
But that's a great question. Now, what really galls me as well, out of all that money, there's some HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities in South Carolina, and they're getting less than $3 million. And they're the people who really, really need the help.
Right.
That was a part of that just grinds me up. Our historic institutions that are out there doing good things and stand for the right things in our society, and we're intentionally giving them pennies, and we're giving private schools. There's nothing wrong, but there's a disproportionate amount here. And I get that, because private schools are private businesses, and many of them are small businesses, but still, I have a sneaking suspicion that the money will get spent before the final ruling on this, and it will, I suspect, get to the Supreme Court. That's a great point.
Dr. Lamb, before you go any further, a couple of questions. One student asked, and I don't know if there's a specific, I know it used to be effective teacher training, but what is the training called to be able to conduct teacher evaluations? I don't know if there's another name out there for it now. Some of the teachers may be able to respond to that.
Every district, there used to be a statewide one that was called effective teacher training. And then we had McRail. Then it was called McRail, MCREL, which is Robert Marzano's group. We had McRail training. Different groups are calling it. Then it became Power Source. Different districts have different names, but it's all the same training to do state evaluation.
Evaluate teachers. I think if you just ask that question, Julian, that you can find out whatever it is in your district. And then one of the students, I know, I don't want to chase rabbits right now, but they want to know, can they know who the professors are going to be in 605 next semester?
Yeah, I'll tell you that in just a minute. I was going to do that last.
Okay.
All right. So we got Megan and Dwayne and Nathan and Julia. We have anybody with us here from that group?
Yeah, they kind of have elected me as spokesperson since everyone did such a marvelous job wrapping up what was going on. So some things that we noticed that we had a large discussion about particularly was the way that the way that Eugenia got to be principal. It was just an open call for applications, and she had been teaching at that school previously. So she just applied, and it pretty much looks like she just got lucky because she has no formal training, obviously no leadership experience, and she has no idea anything about any of the laws that she's supposed to be following. So we were particularly concerned, that since she doesn't really have a firm grasp on things like the LEA and the IDEA, that when she goes to have these conversations with the parents association, she might also be in violation of some FERPA stuff because she just keeps, like talking to them, and she's obviously a good listener. It keeps saying like she's listening intently to their concerns, but she's not a good listener at her school. My group had a problem with the way that she approached Sylvia. She called her into the office, and it kind of seemed like she was in trouble. We suggested that instead of doing it that way, she should have called a vertical team or a team PLC with the second grade, and she should have said, these are the concerns of the Parents Club, or the Parents Association. How is it that you are handling these kind of things in the classroom? And, she should have also come in with some knowledge from some observations, which she obviously doesn't have. And she should have had the technical support person, the one that she sent, Mr. Ortiz, he should have been in there too. These PLCs that she's having should be amongst the grade level teachers, and she should be present at those meetings, as well as Ortiz and any of the other leadership staff or people that are in charge of that specific subject area if it was necessary that she needs training. The other thing that really is bothering me in particular is that the case study says integration programs team of specialists who are working with these students outside of the classroom. It never really mentions an EC teacher or a resource teacher that's doing pullouts or inclusion. So I'm wondering if they're accepting money for those positions but not filling them. And that would be a violation of several laws that we've covered, thus far in class, because they're not doing what they need to be doing for the students, as far as their, master schedule and their budget money. Other than that, we were just talking about how obvious she's illiterate of the law and ignorant of what's going on in her school. She's not empowering any of the teachers. She's not getting them together. They apparently all have very different views of what's to be done. So if they would have gotten maybe that teacher that has the large amount of experience and the really good test scores to have some kind of a professional development, then the rest of them would be on the same kind of level. The fact that the 2 second grade teachers, the parents are coming and saying, this second grade 2A is getting a different education than 2B means that they're not following a curriculum plan, and they're also not communicating between each other. So there's just so much stuff going wrong with this school that, we put the foreclosure slide on one of the slides.
I love that.
We were like, they're just all going to lose their house. She obviously doesn't have anybody that's supporting her. She inherited this school, and it looks like she didn't really examine the mission and vision statement. She didn't adapt it to the needs of the school, and she doesn't really encourage her staff to follow it, and the culture doesn't really reflect it either. So it just looks like she's going to just flat out lose her house here.
Oh, yeah. Kenny's group pointed out that these folks, if they're there, they're the EC people. If they're there, they're not doing their job. But that's a wonderful extension of that. And another point, they may not even hire these people. That money may be going somewhere else. And Paulette's group pointed out, you can't talk to other parents. It's FERPA laws. They pointed that out in their presentation as well. And so did, I believe, Ingrid's group, Kislin. So, yeah, but you're right here. You're violating so many laws here. There's no way you can survive this one. And that goes back to the point that was made earlier. Kenny made either an action plan or got to go, because the district, the exposure, the financial exposure that this district is under is, oh my Lord. I mean, you're talking about heavy layoffs and cutbacks to pay all this money back. And this whole crowd, I mean, I don't see many, I mean, more than the principal's probably going to have to go here. If they've got EC personnel in place, they got to go, because they're missing in action. And you're right, they may not even hired those people. You kind of hope that they didn't. You hope that they didn't hire people they do this bad a job. But it's possible, which leads me to my question that I was going to save to the end, but I'm going to go ahead and hit you with it now. If any of you ever worked in schools that reminds you of this?
Well, Dr. Lamb, you and I both have been at the superintendent's level, and we've had to deal with these kinds of schools.
This is not as far-fetched as you think, folks, unfortunately. It's not as far-fetched as you think. This can happen. I hate to say it, but it can happen. And the point that was just made by Julia, this person just came to this job just almost at random. Usually it wasn't an eeny, meeny, miny, mo. It was, they were totally unqualified, had been a teacher there, but they had some kind of local political pull. Like, I don't know, father-in-law was on the school board. I had one of those one time.
Mm-hmm.
We had a principal one of the districts I was in, his father-in-law was on the school board. I'm not sure he could read and write, and he was the principal. I can't make this up. I am not kidding. I tell the story about him. Biggest mistake I ever saw in schools is, his daddy got off his father-in-law got off the school board. They demoted him from a high school principal down to an elementary. He tried to do a suspend mama into school rather than kids out of school, in a community where if you didn't work that day, you didn't eat that night. So you can imagine how badly that went. But I have seen schools. I have unfortunately had to supervise schools who had political appointees in charge that, had been teachers there and had zero clue about anything. So somebody else had always done it. And they had this sense of entitlement. This is my job. I got it. I didn't get it on merit, so why would I operate it on merit? Let me say that again. I didn't get this job on merit, so why would I operate this job or run this job on merit? I got it on politics. I'll survive it on politics. But you can't. Not when federal and state monies are involved. You just can't. You can't do it. Great presentation. Let's see. I want to get to Tina's group.
My group.
Yeah, Tina, I can take it for you.
Laquetta.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, Laquetta, we can. Go right ahead.
Okay, so everybody did a really good job with kind of bringing out some highlights. And I guess I'm an EC teacher, so some of the things that came to me that me and my group kind of try to examine is, how do the parents know their students is working with EC children? So, because when you go in the classroom, you're not supposed to, really tell who EC and who isn't. So that was one of my.
But everybody knows. I mean, I have a story on that one as well, but I'll skip it. But trust me, in small communities, everybody knows. Did I not tell you the story about Johnny?
I don't recall.
When I was principal in a small district. It brought me in to try to work things to do better in the era when we first moved to accountability in 1989-90, when we first started accountability in North Carolina in terms of testing, before it became the state report card. And so I went in and mixed the classes. They had been homogeneously grouped forever. The bluebirds, the robins, and the buzzards. And I came in, first thing I did was we did heterogeneous grouping. A normal distribution of students. And one of the first calls I got is why is my kid in the dumb class? I believe that's what the parent referred to it as. Why is my kid in the dumb class? And I said, your kid's not. I said, well, Johnny's in there and everybody knows he's an idiot. He was an EC child. And so unfortunately in small communities, everybody knows. But because people tell them, teachers talk out. Right. They go to church, they go to the grocery store, they talk in the lounge. That stuff is inappropriate, but it happens.
Right.
But you're exactly right.
That was one of the things that we discussed. And then, again, we did think about, that if she don't know these laws, I can't imagine, because this will get you fired. If you ever want to get fired or sued, that's with EC. So right. If she don't take the responsibility to find this out, again, I can't imagine what else is going on in the school.
Right.
We talked about, does she really know what an LEA is? Because if so, when they're in those EC meetings, she will make sure that child has the supports in place, so when they do enter that general ed population, that those supports are there. And it seemed like that the teacher may had a lot of EC children in the classroom and no support, again, with the EC teacher and really knowing how to do it. So just looking at the principal really need to check herself and learn the things that she needs to learn, because her career is about to be real short at hand, messing with, parents and EC. Then we kind of, we did talk about the culture and that she wasn't doing, we knew she wasn't doing walkthroughs. She didn't know about the laws. We kind of, just really kind of discussed some of the things that she could do. And our thing was, first you need to educate herself, because you can't, it's hard to educate or teach, or even allow teachers to educate. And you really don't know, so you don't know what's fact and what's fiction or what is added on to it. Right. And you're talking about your career, because if you mess up, you may lose your whole career, not just your job. And we just also really talked about her leadership skills, that, we want to make sure that we have good leadership skills and know the things that we need to know, and how to do things, and how to go and evaluate, how to go and observe, how, even if we are the principal and we have assistant principals, how we have those conversations, when it's our time to talk and really talk about what's going on, what's needed. If she needed to look at, what can I put in place, because it seemed like this teacher that she hired was a good teacher. And sometimes principals take good teachers and try to throw all those difficult children in that classroom. And
Yeah.
sometimes the support don't go in that classroom, but those children go in that classroom. And just to make the EC staff accountable, along with the EC director, because that's what the director is for, to help kind of iron these things out. Because it's, again, as leaders, we have to know our supports and who to go to when we need to go to them. So even bringing in the EC director to kind of, help iron this out and really go through the process of fixing it, because it seemed like it's out of hand. And I'm about like you all. She got this nice promotion and job, but she don't know how to handle it, and without having real good leadership qualities and understand what you need to know, you'll mess up not just your career, but you'll mess up a school, and somebody have to come and fix all of that, and then the district be paying money back that the district already don't have, because you don't get enough money anyway.
Yes.
So, just looking at it, and she needs to be in these classes and doing OMA and APTEL, and she need to come back to school and try it again.
Yeah. But, we generally hire two people for two reasons, because of their political connections or because of their knowledge and skill. And don't kid yourself that we've gotten away from hiring people making political hires. But you need to trade. If you have a relative on the school board, good for you. But you still won't survive it.
Right.
If you make these kinds of mistakes with federal money, even if your father-in-law is on the school board, you need to make sure that you operate with skill and with ethical behavior. It's just that simple. Excellent presentation. And so rounding us out tonight, I guess we will have, let's see, we've got, let's see, do we have Frank's group? If we had them tonight? I don't know that we've had, are we missing a group? Have I missed one? Have I missed a group tonight? Is there anybody else? Last call. All right. Okay. I think that's it then. All right. Let me stop my share. Now, if I've missed somebody I didn't intend to, let me know. All right. A couple of things that I've been asked during this. Who you're going to have next semester, I'll show you that in a minute. All right, I want to speak to the accelerated program, and if you accelerate yourself and still are not going to go, if you're going to go to 7:30, if you should hear in the next week or two, if you were accepted in the accelerated program to go start your doctorate in the fall, they're supposed to let you know by, I think, August 3rd or something like that. They're putting you through the process. Next semester, you take 730 and 731, which is the internship that goes with it, and you would take 698 internship. That would normally go with 605. You will not take 605. You take 730 in its place. And if you've already done your evidences, then you don't have anything to do other than just complete your portfolio, your competency folio, your competency analysis, School of Ed dispositions. So you will do that, but you don't have to take both 730 and 605. If you accelerated yourself this summer and are going to 605, you just have to do the classwork next semester and finish out your folio as well. You won't have to participate. But remember, we don't do peer review or any of that for the CAP and the SIOP anyway. And so you just don't have to do that part of it. There wouldn't be any peer reviews. You're not holding anybody else up when you get to 605 anyway. So hopefully that clears that up. And so let me share my screen and let's look quickly at the schedule. Let me get this out of the way so I can do this. Let me find this. Go here. I may have to switch over here. Let me see if I've got it under my. Okay. That's going to be W-O-R-R-E. All right. So if you're in the C2 class, you will have Dr. Stone, and you'll either have Sumner or Whirl as your coach. If you are in the C4 section, you will have Dr. Stone. And if you're in the C8 section, you'll have Dr. Zions, and you'll be working with Dr. Massengill again. So Dr. Whirl is coming to us new. She just retired as superintendent in Asheboro City. She and I worked together years ago, and she's coming back, and you will love her. So 6-0, C2, C4 got Dr. Stone, C8's got Dr. Zions. I hope you work with her before, but she's wonderful. You'll enjoy these classes. So that's who you will have next semester. Other questions that you have for me, I'll just open it up. You can ask them. You can go to the chat, or you can ask. Question came in, can you still submit your CAP and SOP to this Blackboard course for feedback? Absolutely, you can. I check mine every day, as you know. And so you always will have me to keep submitting these back to this for me to comment on them. That will be fine. When will it close? It will close out right after the semester, but then generally it opens back up. They just shut it down for maintenance. If it's not, I have a clinical shell that I can put you in. And so I can put you in that clinical shell, and you can work with me. So if you can't get to mine, just let me know. I appreciate working with you. I'm not going to have any 605s this fall because I have 2 doctoral cohorts that I got to get back to. I love 603, but I've got an EDCI doctoral group that we're doing add-on with them, and I've got a 738 group in organizational leadership that I've got to teach statistics to this fall. So who teaches 730 in the LS program? Dr. Laws, Dr. Stone. He's got a couple other people that do it. And so if you completed the CAP and SOP, what is task going forward? That you just got to finish up your competency folio and those other little things that you do. The SOP is the last of your evidences in the add-on licensure program. Now you're going to get 6 new ones in the doctoral program, but they're going to be central office oriented, and they won't be nearly as involved and as long as these. But you'll get 6 new evidences when you go to the doctoral program. Are there books we will miss for? No, you'll get Maxwell. We do Maxwell. You'll get. That's why we don't worry about you missing 605. You'll do this pretty much the same books in 730. So you won't miss anything. You'll do Strength Finder. You'll do the same stuff. It may not be lined up the same way, but you'll do the same stuff. All right. So thank you, everybody. Did we get through by 8:30 tonight? We did. Look at us. We've gotten more efficient as we go. I appreciate your patience on these case study nights. I know some of it seems repetitive, but always the discussion brings out more things that that even I didn't remember or missed or hadn't thought about. And so I've tried to split us up in groups, and I just didn't like it. I didn't feel like that we got enough. When we went to breakout rooms, we just didn't get enough. We all needed to hear it maybe more than once, and somebody pointed out a little something here or there. It's the group dynamic that makes these case studies so good. That I learned something again. I've done them for 2 years now, and we'll get some new ones next fall. But I swear to you, I learn something every time we do this. And so shoot me an email. I'll put you in my clinical shell, and I'll work with you. And it's got both discussion board that's open to everybody. It also has drop boxes if you just want me to see it in that clinical shell. Just shoot that to me, and I can drop you in there anytime. Again, thank you all. I don't want to get all teary-eyed here. That's not really my deal, but I've had a great time. I appreciate Dr. Massengill and Dr. Tobias. Dr. Stedman, he and I go back a long way. We've been ham and egging this thing for a long time, and I appreciate him every day. Appreciate all of you. And again, thank you for choosing Garden Web and the MELS program. I will see you again soon, I am quite sure. So everybody get your work in. You got until, when is it? Next Tuesday, I believe. Final grades are due next Tuesday. So you got another week. Wednesday, next Tuesday or Wednesday. So you got another week. Everybody looks good so far. So just finish it on out strong. I'll see you again soon. Have a good break.